Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Power Is Now TV. My name is Eric Frazier. April is Fair Housing Month, and we are conducting a series of interviews with industry leaders across the country about the 1968 Fair Housing Act. The 1968 Fair Housing Act is such important legislation, and we are trying to measure the effectiveness of the legislation, of the law, since its inception in 1968. 54 years have passed by, and is there a difference? Are we better off? Is racism and discrimination in housing still a problem? Well, these are some of the questions we're going to examine today. And we have an industry leader with us today, a real estate industry leader. His name is Ryan Weyandt. He's the CEO of the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance. And he's here to talk about the 1968 Fair Housing Act. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us on The Power Is Now.
Mr. Frazier, what a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. I am humbled and honored to be your guest, and I look forward to our conversation.
Ryan, I'm really looking forward to our conversation as well. And I love learning about organizations that are doing the work to make homeownership a reality for everyone, irrespective of race, color, creed, religion, sexual orientation. And that's really what the spirit of the law, actually, it's the letter of the law, actually, right, in terms of the 1968 Fair Housing Act. And I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on this important piece of legislation. Now, before we get into the details of that, we have a tradition on this show where we ask all of our guests, what does the phrase, "the power is now," mean to you in the context of who you are, what you do professionally, and especially in the context of fair housing, which is what we're talking about today?
Well, I think the phrase "the power is now" it kind of defines what we're doing here at the Alliance, right? So it embodies just an overall sensation that if not now, when? And for me personally, looking at this through a professional and a personal lens, it really is the crux of why we started the Alliance. If not now, when? The power is now. We have momentum on our side for fair housing right now. And there's so much going on sociopolitically in this country right now. I always say, politics aside, you know how everyone feels right now, and you know where they stand on any given issue. The power is now, Eric, and I believe that together we're going to be able to move the needle a lot quicker than we are separately, and the time is now to do that as well. So that's kind of what registers to me when we talk about that phrase. What does that mean? How does that play into my life professionally and personally? I think it really it personifies an era and an opportunity that we're currently in.
Ryan, I love your statement. You're absolutely right. We are stronger together, better together. We all need to come together. And there's been so many things that have happened that have divided us. If there's ever a time that we need to come together, the power is truly now to do so in order to make the laws that are on the book actually more effective and achieving the goals and the ideals that I think our founding fathers had, and us being a place where freedom reigns, where people should have the ability to live where they want to live, buy what they want to buy, be who they want to be, and this great experience, this great experiment called America. Now, the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance is an organization that you founded. You're the CEO. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization as a whole and your role as CEO?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Well, the Alliance was founded on Father's Day of 2020, actually, and it was founded out of a desire and really a need to do more for the LGBTQ plus community in all things housing. So not just real estate. And we are a 501c6 organization, a member-driven organization. However, we aren't just about realtors and real estate professionals. We encompass 32 different professions that can belong as members to our organization. So everyone from realtors to title professionals, mortgage professionals, all the way to CPAs and photographers, stagers. So really it's all the ancillary and real estate based, and housing members of the industry and the profession. And the organization came to be on the heels of an organization that was in the territory for about 13 years, unfortunately disintegrated, and the IRS repealed their 501c3 status. We recognized an opportunity, and really the power is now a momentum that had already been set off that we couldn't afford to lose. So 56 of us actually formed a steering committee with the assistance of mentors of mine like Gary Acosta from NAREP, the Hispanic Association, and some of our more visible leaders from the National Association of Realtors, and gave me the encouragement and the wisdom I needed to get this organization back on track. And we started, and I keep saying we, that it really was a collaboration of 56 of us that went through 6 months of planning and steering committee calls. And we opened the organization for membership on October 1st, 2020. And between October 1st, 2020, Eric, and today, we've put on 2,100 members. So that momentum is real, and it's visible. And there's a demand right now, not just in fair housing, but in all of real estate and housing, to make sure that we are protecting LGBTQ plus rights in home ownership, because we talk about the American dream so often. I am a true believer that the American dream is housing in this country. And if not housing, what is it? What's greater than being able to obtain independence through housing and start building generational wealth through housing? And we have a lot of work to do. And you and I will engage a little bit further in this conversation as how our community, the LGBTQ plus community, still has a lot of protections that need to be extended over to us. But the foundation is in place. And our organization exists for a few different main functions. Obviously, it's very important that we're continuing to cultivate and nurture professional development and ROI through our membership, but also that we're speaking out and we're advocating for fair and equal housing. So our advocacy policy platform is very, very sound. Our education platform is, I think, a pinnacle of what we do here. It's through education that we touch hearts and minds, and I truly believe that. So we focus on education, and then our philanthropic work at the Alliance. We are here as a C6 to complement organizations that are already fulfilling a charitable purpose. We're not here to do their work. We're here to help them get further and achieve the mission that they're trying to do. So education, philanthropy, professional development, and advocacy is really what the Alliance is all about.
Ryan, what is the official mission statement and vision statement for your organization?
Yeah, it's actually 3 words, and then we define it from there. So it's advocate, elevate, and celebrate. Advocate for fair housing for all and promote LGBTQ plus homeownership. Elevate professionalism in the industry through education and networking, and celebrate diversity and inclusion in our members and our allied partners. So advocate, elevate, and celebrate.
Wow, that's fantastic. And, part of the focus in terms of those who fall within the LGBTQ plus community, is there diversity in your organization? Because as you know, we have the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is predominantly African-American, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, which is predominantly Latino, and then the Asian Real Estate Association of America. Does the Real Estate Alliance go beyond sexual orientation in terms of its diversity as a group?
Yeah, so, one of the cool things about founding an organization like this and being the architect of an organization is intent. And we were very intentional when we were building the foundation of this organization, the Alliance, to ensure that we are truly being representative of the entire community at large. And one of I call it a blessing, a gift. One of the gifts that we have in the LGBTQ plus community is that we truly do resemble society at large, right? So the LGBTQ community is a microcosm of the greater structure of society. We encompass every other diverse segment and minority and majority group within our community. So it's pivotally important that we are not only reflecting that back at the community, but we are able to bring members in that see that within our organization too. So the answer is yes, Eric. I'm very proud that we do focus on true diversity, true equity, true inclusion within the Alliance. 25% of our members identify as straight allies. Right now, 48% of our members identify as female. And we don't currently track racial minority metrics within the Alliance. However, I can tell you that it's crucially important that we are working to be as inclusive as possible within our diverse segments in our community, because minority home ownership within our community is the lowest in this country. So if you look at LGBTQ Black home ownership numbers, they're in the single digits. LGBTQ Latina home ownership numbers are in the single digits. The LGBTQ community minority segments individually compose the lowest home ownership rates in this country. And so for us to focus on more than just our identity and orientation, it's pivotally important to move that needle.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think gender identity and orientation are important because those who are being discriminated against, specifically because of their gender or orientation, it is just wrong. And you need your group, if you will, a group, to be advocates. And this is the same reason why NAREP got started, NAREP got started, ARIA got started, because we need advocacy to address unique challenges that these representative groups face when it comes to home ownership. But so I would encourage you definitely to start the tracking in terms of organizational makeup as well, and not just your organization, but also NAREP and ARIA and NAREP. I mean, I don't know. You said it earlier. We are stronger together. Yes, we need representation. Yes, we need advocacy, addressing the unique challenges in our respective communities. But we also need to be Americans. And we need to be people who love people, who want to support one another. We all need to come together. And that's my hope with all of these organizations, that there is a greater collaboration on conferences and policy work and on the ground, boots on the ground work, where they're truly working together to make a difference in all communities, to see that homeownership becomes a reality for all. The rate of homeownership for African Americans is the lowest of all groups. And so it doesn't surprise me that within your organization, it's even lower.
Yeah, and we enjoy 49% home ownership rates if you just look at the general LGBTQ plus home ownership rate, as you know, compared to the general American population, that number is 65%. The non-Hispanic white population enjoys 73%. So we are not the lowest home ownership rates if you look at our community kind of comprehensively. But when we start to break into the intersectionality of the other diverse segments that make up our community, those are amongst the lowest home ownership rates in the country. And it's tragic because, it is a layer of complexity that folks often ignore. When we talk about, and again, I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm a millennial white male in the upper Midwest leading this organization. So it's a very intentional exercise to be inclusive and make sure that the representation of our organization truly does resemble that of our community. But I can tell you that when we talk to our peers at NAREP and NAREP and ARIA, even the Veterans Association, folks so oftentimes get so fixated on their one community that they forget that we all grow or sink together. And it's exactly what you said, Eric. The late senator from Minnesota, Paul Wellstone, had a saying that I repeat every time I get on stage or get on a broadcast like this: we all do better when we all do better. And if one of our segments starts to grow, I believe that we will see growth in all the segments. And the more we work together, the more we extend our hands across the aisle, the more that we pull each other up with our segment, so goes minority housing. And let's change that. Let's turn it from minority to majority housing. Let's blow those averages out of the water over the next 10, 15 years.
It's ironic you say that, because the fastest growing segment of homeowners over the next 10 years or longer, actually forever, will be minorities.
And that is where the opportunity is. And just speaking I know, and Gary Acosta over at Now Rep is a mentor of mine. I'll use his name a couple times because I hear his talking points. He motivated me to get the alliance going, frankly. But I know that the Latino sector is one of the largest potential home ownership sectors in the country for the next 15 years. One thing that we rarely hear folks talk about, though, if you look at the LGBTQ population in America, it is a combined purchase power right now of $1.2 trillion just within the American LGBTQ population. That's larger than the combined economies of Canada, South Korea, and Australia. So to not believe that the LGBTQ plus community in America has purchase power is bad business. Whether you believe or you stand for equity and equality within our community, by not working with us, it's a bad business decision.
No, well, racism, discrimination is bad business, period. And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, too many are still engaged at a high level in practicing discrimination against people for just for a number of reasons, particularly as it relates to race and gender identity, orientation, all these families now, people with disabilities, it just goes on. Thank God for Title VIII as it expanded the Fair Housing Act to include even more people who are victims of discrimination. Now, you mentioned Gary encouraged you to start the organization and the circumstances by which a new organization was needed anyway. Can you speak to your vision, why are you so passionate, and what what do you appreciate the most about what you're able to accomplish as CEO of this organization?
Yeah, sure. So and let me just clarify, it plays back into the story of how I got to where I am with my interaction with Gary Acosta very early on in my career. And that is what I believe set the trajectory of getting me to where I am now. And let me kind of dig into that. So I spent 10 years in mortgage banking. I was with Wells Fargo for 6 years and US Bank for 4 years, two excellent companies that I believe really, really did take care of me as a producer while I was there. Producing mortgage it's an education. And I tell you what, one thing that we don't do enough of in our public education sector is giving folks the basic fundamentals to figure out how to get a mortgage, how to finance a house, how to do your taxes. And so I learned, even though I'm college educated with a master's, I learned a lot of that stuff in real time as a mortgage producer. In 2012, Eric, I had the opportunity through Wells Fargo to go down to Wells Fargo Home Mortgage corporate headquarters in Des Moines, Iowa, and see a presentation by the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, NAREP. And the gentleman who led that, Gary Acosta, was down there with some of his peers. And I had the opportunity to interact with him. I had always had, and I don't know what started it, but I have always had a passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion work, especially in the finance sector. And so when I met Gary in person, I was blown away that there was an entire organization devoted to promoting Hispanic and Latino home ownership and wealth creation. And I was just absolutely captivated by this guy and what he had done and what he had built and continues to build today. And I had some interface with him down there. And at that point in 2012, Gary challenged me to find an organization that did this work in my segment and to get a part of it and to start creating the change. And I took that to heart. And so the organization that I referenced earlier, the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estate Professionals, which no longer exists, I was a part of that, a very instrumental part of that for 7 years. I led the Minnesota chapter, and then I started the Philanthropic Foundation for that organization. It gave me an opportunity to reinvest in the community that I belong to find representation through the LGBTQ community in leadership and really changing the way that fair housing is looked at through the lens of LGBTQ folks. And really, I took what Gary said to heart so much that it really impacted the rest of my life. So when the opportunity arose 2 years ago for this organization to start, it wasn't any kind of meticulous sit down and plan session. It was this is the time. Now is the time. Like, we have to move now while we have this momentum in place. And we did it. And 2 years into this thing, it's every day is a wild journey, and I'm blessed for it, and I'm grateful for it. But we're on the front lines, just like all the other organizations. And I think I'll say it in every segment that we talk, Eric, but if we can figure out how to fight on the front lines together, we're going to make some serious progress in fair housing. But if we try and run our own siloed races, there's going to be a lot of parallel work, but it's not going to get us any further. So I'm excited that we finally, I feel, have some momentum between all the four families, as we call it, the big four, in real estate, and it would appear that we're starting to move in tandem together, which is very exciting.
Well, we need to add we'll call it the granddaddy of them all, NAR, right?
Yes.
And then all the state associations to work in tandem, in collaboration and cooperation with all the minority trade associations. And we're seeing great work being done in that regard. But working together works, always has, always will. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm talking to Ryan Weyandt. He is the CEO of the Real Estate Alliance, and we're talking about the 1968 Fair Housing Act and his organization, the great work that's being done, the incredible growth they've had since their inception in 2020, and there's a whole lot more. If you're listening to us on our podcast, please share this link. If you're watching us on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, or any mobile device, Power is Now TV, please share this information. I'm confident that someone will either be inspired or educated about this organization that's doing great work. You're listening to The Power is Now TV. We'll be right back right after this commercial break.
The Power is Now magazines are the leading resource for real estate agents, mortgage bankers, entrepreneurs, and small home ownership businesses, providing leaders with business strategy information, resources, and tools through PIN, real estate, programming guide magazines. Stay up to the minute with real estate news and information from industry experts. Subscription is free. Sign up today. thepowerisnow.com. thepowerisnow.com.
Thank you so much for joining me today to participate in this 1968 Fair Housing series with industry leaders. We're talking now to Ryan Weyandt. He is the CEO of the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance, and we have gone way over time, folks, so we're going to make this a two-parter. So stay tuned for more with Ryan Weyandt as we head to part 2 of our series.